Hello folks, what you've just seen, standing at something like 531 feet above sea level, is the highest village in Scotland. That village is called Wanlockhead. It's high up in the Leadhills, just on the fringe of the Dumfries and Galloway district. In fact, I think it's included in that district. I've come here today just to look at this marvellous range. This place is famous for, over the years, its lead, silver and gold mining. And it was named a jewel back in medieval times, and at the times when Robert the Bruce was on the go. And it's a place that tradition tells us Robert the Bruce traditionally kept a string of ponies here. As you walk this terrain, I did expect a fair degree of wind up here today. What else can you expect on top of this bare landscape? Not too many trees around here at all. But this is a perfect terrain for breeding and raising what we would call hobelars. Similar to garrons, ponies who could move quickly through rugged and hilly terrain. So compared to the conventional English light horse, certainly not a place up here for heavy horse. When troops had to be on the move quickly, when guerrilla tactics were the favour of the day, which we know Bruce used ever since his return to the mainland and his outlaw years, that these trooper type ponies, these moss trooper type ponies, these hobelars, they were the perfect vehicle to get out into the wilds, to come out, to hit the enemy, and to get back into the fastnesses of the wilderness without being followed, without any difficulty. And it's just to get up here in this landscape. There's no concrete evidence that Robert the Bruce, no documentary evidence anyway, that Robert the Bruce did keep a string of ponies here. But tradition tells us he did. And I think that there's a strong case for him doing that. This was a great resource, and I find it inconceivable that Robert the Bruce would not visit such a place like this, that was such a valuable resource for Scotland at the time. Even when Robert the Bruce was in death, he was dressed in a lead surcoat and crown that most likely came from this place here. When you make your way through this type of terrain, you really get a good idea for it. I mean, we're almost in the month of May. This is mid-April, but in winter time, this is an extremely bleak, tough and barren terrain. And these type of ponies or palfreys would have to be exceptionally resilient to live in such a terrain. Therefore, they are of immense value to the soldier, to an army. And Wanlockhead, high up here in the Leadhills, is the perfect place to raise them. If you were to ask me what my favourite period in the medieval times were, certainly in relation to people like Wallace and Bruce, and in relation to Robert the Bruce himself, it's during the outlaw years. I love the story of an outlaw. I have done since I was a boy. I love the intrigue of the getaway, of nearly being caught, of a successful raid, all of these things. One popular story about Robert the Bruce is how he would reverse the horseshoes, and he would leave a false trail for his enemies to follow. I'm sure he wasn't the only one who tried that. But I can just imagine him being out here, picking his ponies, taking them out for a ride with his comrades, trying them out. What a perfect place. No landmark or anything to Robert the Bruce, it's just tradition. But as I say, I think there's an extremely strong case for a pony like this, for such a tool which is more valuable than any weapon, no doubt about it, where you could cross terrain quickly in any weather, knowing that your animal was fit for purpose and could get you from A to B. You could come out of these hills, do what you had to do, and you could slink right back into them efficiently, while your enemy had great difficulty in your pursuit. I thought I would bring you up here today just to take this short detour, not only to show you the highest village in Scotland, but just to show you the terrain that these animals were kept and raised in, and why they were so sturdy and valuable. We know how much a horse cost in medieval times. Amr de Valence paid something like the £200 in today's money for a medieval war horse, a colossal sum at the time, whereas these could be raised cheaply, brought up in these hills and put to enormous use, because there's no such place in England to raise such resilient animals that were fully functional and fit for war. It's been quite a number of years since I've been at Wanlockhead. It's a beautiful area, and I was hoping today to see some ponies, because I know they used to keep them up here in recent years, but not anymore. It's just sheep. Just spoke to someone at the Lead Mining Museum, and that's well worth coming up here for a visit, just to get into these hills and into this rough terrain, which really has not changed much since the time of Robert the Bruce. But it's well worth getting up in here and just savouring the hills. There's nothing better than just getting your boots on and getting out for a walk as well. So ditch the car, we're on the Southern Upland Way, and take yourself into the hills for a few miles, and you'll get a real taste of the terrain that Robert the Bruce knew. can also imagine when the English did come up into these type of places that they wouldn't have got much from the locals. I think by the time Bruce here was quite active in Scotland as a guerrilla fighter, that he would have had most of the support, certainly in this region, so near to the Carrick lands, so near to all the Dumfries and Galloway region, that the locals would have had a silent tongue. The English would have been met with a muteness that betrayed nothing. I suppose the success of any outlaw... Digger, here! I suppose the success of any, good lad, of any outlaw is the trust in the protection of the people. That's paramount. For if you're betrayed by the people, you're easily found. Most successful outlaws have had some type. They've written folk stories about them, that the local people have been silent when people have come looking for them. Stories are told and passed on, and that was the case with Robert the Bruce. When you look at his return to the mainland, and you look at his victories at Raploch Moss, Glentrool, on to Loudon Hill, the bigger affairs, but Bruce kept very active in small ways. And there are probably many skirmishes and small battles that we'll never ever know about, that were never ever recorded. I know that the English frequently lost horses in the Galloway region, which was a perfect landscape, a perfect terrain for Bruce to be holed up with his men while he gathered his strength, but also where he plotted and used as a base his military operations. I get more a sense of the outlaw, more than any castle, battlefield, or ancient building, or standing stone. I get more of a feeling of the outlaw, even of the person, when I'm out here in the wilderness, when I'm in the hills. It's where your mind can wander freely. It's where I believe that some type of spirit of something is left in the landscape, that there's an indelible print somewhere, a pulse from a life that's long gone. Digger, here. And that's why I love to walk the hills. That's why I love the experience of being in the mountains, in the hills, in the glens, walking by the rivers. When I walk the Ettrick Water, or the River Tweed, or the Clyde, or even some small streams or waterways that are ancient, I get a feeling for those who have gone before me, who have watered their horses there, who have camped there, who have sought refuge there on their way to a skirmish or after a battle, or just having a secret rendezvous within a forest or an area. I mean, look at this landscape. I think is a strong resource that this place is. It's high, it's wild, it's out of the way. It was perfect for raising and breeding these ponies that were so well equipped, nothing better equipped for efficiency, for the guerrilla fighter that was Robert the Bruce and his followers. And now the ponies are gone, replaced by sheep, which is a shame because that takes away just a little of the spirit of the past. I see the odd mountain hare, which is great to see. No doubt there are deer up here, but it's quite a bare landscape. But I've also got no doubt that Robert the Bruce was here, both during his outlaw years and later, making visits through the country, and that they used the most valuable materials from this place, even in his death. I came here today on a whim, because during my readings I have 4 or 5 books normally by my bedside, and I do read 4, 5, 6 books at a time. And somewhere within one of these books in the last couple of nights, I'd read something about Robert the Bruce, these palfreys, these sturdy garrons, these ponies which were so useful. And I just thought I would take a detour here today to come and pay tribute to it and show it to yourselves and share it with you. Don't get me wrong, I'm under no illusion that the life of an outlaw was a glamorous one. I remember reading about Frank and Jesse James. After Jesse James was killed and Frank handed himself in and was given an amnesty, he said he'd never known a day out of the saddle. He'd never known a day out of the saddle. He'd never known a peaceful night. He never knew what peace was, always looking over his shoulder, a target on his back, a wanted man, a death warrant on him. In the case of Robert the Bruce, he was a bit more than an outlaw. This is a man who had become a king, who took that kingship, and he fought with his every fibre in his body to keep it. He lost most of all his family, friends, and it's sometimes great loss to himself because Bruce had many battle scars. The wounds on his skull, around his orbital bone and his nose and his jawbone betray that. It was a hard life. It was a tough life. But it had an end goal. And Robert Bruce was one of the few people in the history of the entire world to achieve that goal and to achieve it successfully. Later he would become known as the Good King Robert. Scotland prospered under him. The people loved him. There was a great mourning when he died. And I think when they came up here to get the lead that they would dress him in and make his crown off, some of the people who lived here back then would have known him when he came to view his horses, try them out, ride them, pick one for himself and his friends, and see his friends up here okay, for he was that type of man. Nameless and faceless people, whispers, in the past. Over. This way. Dig us. I think this would have been a dear community to Robert the Bruce. I find it harder to believe he didn't come here than he never came here at all. I think it's highly likely he came here where they kept these great ponies. He would have had friends here, people he broke bread with, and people he trusted, where he was given a bed and could stay the night because he had the will of the people. And in later years, when he drove his enemies out of Scotland, well, he was still outlawed by the Pope, by King Edward II, but he didn't have to watch over his back anymore, did he? He'd closed every door in Scotland by then. It's good for the lungs, the heart, and the spirit, getting out into these hills. That's what makes me truly feel alive. Thank you for joining me and walking in the footsteps with me and keeping our history alive. If you've liked following me here, please like, hype, comment, share, subscribe. I'll see you soon.